Hi everyone, this is Andrea Smith on your regular Wednesday Masterclass. I'm a stress resilience coach, cognitive behavior therapist, and author of Fear Less, Live More. Today's topic is the secret to deal with toxic people at work. Now, imagine you've received some negative information about me. You've heard some rumors about me saying that I'm a liar, I'm a bragger, I'm not very good at my job. How much will that change your perception about me or your image about me right now? As a stress resilience coach, I've met hundreds of people working in toxic environments. So I decided to do some research and found that leaders and employees sometimes talk negatively about their colleagues, and we call that backbiting. The definition is talking negatively about another person, gossiping about that person who's not present. This creates a negative and a toxic work environment. And tell me how many of you have worked in an environment that there's no backbiting, there's no gossiping. So there's an ancient technique that we can use to filter the negativity that comes at us, to stop us taking part in this toxicity. It's called the triple filter test. So the first is when somebody's telling you something about someone else, you ask that person, do you know something about my friend that isn't true? Second thing is you ask them, is it anything good? Most probably that person will say, not really, it's not anything good, it's something really horrible about that person. And the third question you ask them is it useful? Then you tell that person, why you bothered to tell me? So in this manner, you are using the triple filter test to filter out any negativity or you taking part in this backbiting or gossiping, which then goes on to create this toxic work environment. So do you know who in our society backbites, men and women? And why do we do this? We feel elevated about ourselves when we backbite by talking other people down. We feel as if when we gossip, we belong to that section of people. So what do we do? How do we end this backbiting? So here's, something that you guys can do. Ask your workplace, do you believe that backbiting is taking place in the workplace? Then ask those 3 questions that I've just suggested about that triple filter test. And then ask your team, do they want to work in a place where there's no backbiting, there's no gossiping? It's really a pleasant place to work in. So I suggest making a flip chart. And that flip chart will say in big letters, no backbiting takes place here. Then ask everybody if they want to join this team project and get them to sign it at the bottom. Then stick it in a prominent place. So it says, Gossip 2022, no backbiting takes place here. Just imagine the absenteeism will go down because it's been well researched. Sickness rate will go down. People will not leave that company and the productivity level will go up. The sad thing is when you work in a toxic work environment, you will become immune to it. And that positive work environment is an alien territory to you. Plus the damage has been done already and it's irreversible. This will cause serious health and well-being issues, which includes that you will snap at some of your co-workers when you get irritable, or your family members, or you will get irritable and grumpy and maybe even have a verbal fight with somebody at random strangers, even in the supermarket. Another part of what happens in a toxic work environment is that you've actually got to go to work and you've got to interact with those people. And depending on those toxic people, like just say the IT manager is being really toxic and not great, and he has to provide some vital information about your job, but he doesn't give it to you. So he will set you up for failure. That means that that toxic environment will have a high turnover rate because the IT manager is toxic there. And you can see things will never change there. And that means that every time you have to go to work, you would start to panic and you feel really not great about yourself. Now, let's say you're in a toxic work environment, but you'd love to walk out and you'd love to quit your job and you'd love to never set eyes on your toxic boss or that IT manager or your co-workers again. In reality, it is not always possible. It's inevitable that you've got to manage and deal with that toxic work environment because you have no choice. So you've got to work and deal with them and take care of your stress and anxiety that creates. So there's more you can do to survive in this toxic work environment. It's a simple way to thrive there. So here I'm going to dive into how to cope with the toxic work environment. Tip 1, just remember, it's not personal. You can see that the backbiting, the undermining, the gossiping, the disrespecting is because something's wrong with the other person, with your toxic boss or the co-worker. It can be damaging, but it's never about you. It is possible that the other person's insecure, they're projecting onto you their issues, and you need to differentiate in between what's going on and knowing that it's not you, but it's hard. The second tip is create a positive bubble around yourself, because there's so much negativity at work. Do something positive for yourself. Is at lunchtime, go for a walk and get out of that environment, get in some fresh air. Tip 3 is set some boundaries, work-life boundaries, impersonal boundaries, like not talking about your work at home, so that when you get home, you are separate from it. Tip 3 is put that poster up, decline to take part in that drama, stay out of it. Gossip is a participatory sport. That means you have a choice to do it or not. Tip 5, have some empathy. Acknowledge that this is where that person who's having that toxicity is and where they're coming from. So knowing that, you will feel better about it and knowing that it's not you. Tip 6 is have a rest after your workplace. Listen to some music, do something energetic, watch a funny movie. And tip 7, the most important, build your self-confidence. Realize that toxic workplace, you lose your self-confidence greatly. And when losing your self-confidence, you feel not great about yourself. So Heather, one of my clients, said to me, this is what she did. She surrounded herself with positive influences that worked best for her. Once she surrounded around herself with people that did not gossip, she saw the best in others. That changed totally her workplace attitude. Taking a walk, getting out of the building for lunch, writing in your journal, one of the best ways of coping with that environment. Taking a walk is a great tip because you can get away, cool down, and remove that emotional charge that you feel when you're in that environment. Furthermore, toxic or hostile work environments has a negative impact on your health and it damages your self-esteem. So check in with yourself frequently. How are you sleeping? Are you regularly getting at least 8 hours of sleep? Are you eating well? Are you, not overeating? Are you feeling safe at home and at work? Another client, Eleanor, said, it is so hard not to gossip in this toxic work environment. But the tip about refraining from it is really true. So she chalked her discomfort at her current new job to that environment that was new to her. And she was new to that industry. At first, she thought that something was wrong with her. But when she started talking to some of the other co-workers, she felt that they were dealing with the same thing. But chronic venting does not help. It feels good in the moment, but it does not fix the problem or change that environment. And you get really angry with that problem in the end. These strategies may seem naive or simple, but do you know that if you start your children from a young age, and if you teach them that, as an adult, I'm going to set an example and be a responsible adult and not gossip negatively about my uncle or my mother-in-law or my neighbor or my colleague around the dinner table. My kids will learn how not to gossip or backbite, even at school. And this sets an example. If an employer treats their staff equally and doesn't see, and makes an effort to deal with something differently. But if they don't, and they treat some staff differently and some staff not, and they refuse to see what's wrong with them, this creates that toxic work environment. And if left unchecked, it will ruin their own company. So it's surprising that there is a negative impact. So I believe, and today I'm going to say this, that gossip and spreading rumors is detrimental, not only at work, but also your social environment. No one person can change that entire workplace of incompetent bosses, jealousy, gossip, backbiting, laziness. And this will lead to mental health issues, phoniness, two-faced people at work. So no job is going to be 100% perfect, but aligning with the core values of your workplace and putting strategies and tips in place to not backbite or gossip at work